Welcome back to the Hebrew Point of View. We are going to be talking today about my new book.
And I know it's been a while since you've seen us. And yes, we have a great thing to tell you, and that is we have Stuarts' latest book that has been published. And we're just going to have a little discussion on his book. It took me obviously a while to read it because I've been reading through some of the content over and over again, but every time I read it, it is just gripping. It is really a gripping story, and not only a gripping story, but it is historical. And I must mention that because I never knew much about biblical history before I read this, and it has totally opened up my eyes. And I have read this book quite a few times because I've had to edit it along with Stuart, and it has been great reading. I have really thoroughly enjoyed reading it. It has got a lot of biblical, historical truths in here which I never knew of, and it blew me out of the water. It's been absolutely fantastic. Couldn't put the book down because the plot in it is really good. But I would like to ask him, the Star of Babylon is the title. Why did you call it the Star of Babylon? I know who the star is because I've read it, but they wouldn't know that.
Well, the Star of Babylon is Hillel ben Shachar, which refers to the ruler of the city of Babylon, that constellation that rules over Babylon, which was Venus, the morning star, the bright morning star. The rulers of the city were known by the name of the star. So, Star of Babylon refers to Belshazzar.
Okay.
But the history around this Star of Babylon is what is important to us. And this is not a history book, but a history novel. It's a historical novel that I've written because I wanted you to learn and to get to know the history that is behind our belief system, our Christianity and Judaism. I wanted you to know that history, but history is boring. And a lot of people don't like history and they don't like reading history, but you will read a story. So I've written a story, a novel. And within the novel, I have included the historical facts. The entire novel is based upon true historical and biblical facts. And so,
I did do some of the research on that, by the way, because I wanted to find out a little bit more of what you had said in the book. And yes, you can. I Googled it and it came out exactly as you said it.
Yes, and when you get to the end of the book, you're going to know the history. And this history is important because it forms part of the foundation of our faith. So when the Jews were in Babylon, and they were there for 70 years,
right,
which is a lifetime. I mean, I'm not 70 years old. It's my entire lifetime in another country, so you can imagine the influence from Babylonian society on these Jews. Jews like Ezra and Nehemiah and Zerubbabel, they were all born in Babylon. They were born there. They didn't even know Jerusalem. They'd only heard stories. And so this Babylonian religion affected them and affected their belief system. And for Jews, their belief system and religion became almost syncretic. In other words, they took into their religion parts of Babylonian belief systems. And when Cyrus the Great comes, and some of us don't even know that Cyrus was used by God. God calls Cyrus, "You are my servant Cyrus." And Cyrus becomes a Messiah figure, a type of a Messiah. And if you're into typology, a type simply means it's a preview of what is to come. So Cyrus the Great, the deliverer of Israel from Babylon, becomes a type of the Messiah. So that's important to us. But when he comes, he brings with him Zoroastrianism. And if you have never heard of the religion of Zoroastrianism, this religion is important because it also affects our belief system.
It has influenced our belief system.
It does, because it was so similar. And the Jews saw Cyrus as their deliverer, and they figured, well, their religion is so close to what we believe, this must be something that is good. And so they started to take on and assimilate into their religion parts of Zoroastrianism. And that's why Babylon is important, because their religion began to be influenced by Babylonian society.
It's 70 years.
We call it syncretism. It's a syncretic form of religion where your religion becomes influenced by other religions and you start to adopt certain parts of it, certain aspects.
So it mingles into what you believe. Or maybe they didn't even know what they believe.
Right. So Ezra starts to write down Torah for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Write down the words of what before was an oral belief system, an oral tradition.
Yeah.
And he starts to write it down to preserve their religion, preserve their nationality and the individuality and who they are, their belief in their God. And so that's why this is important. And then Cyrus the Great comes with Zoroastrianism, which is very similar to what the Jews believed.
Yeah.
And so when he gets there and he sets these Jews free, they don't all leave and go back to Jerusalem. Only some go back, a remnant. The rest stay in Babylon because life was good.
They knew home.
Life was good there, and they were prosperous. And they began to subject themselves or submit to the influence of Zoroastrianism. And folks, that is so important. If you've never heard of the religion Zoroastrianism, you need to understand that it is important in our understanding of Christianity and Judaism because it influenced what we believe.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's why I wrote this book. I want to bring these things to the forefront so people can understand how did we get to where we are today in Christianity and in Judaism? How did we get here? And how did our belief system develop to the point where we believe what we believe today?
Yeah.
So we need to understand history. History is important because it gives us context.
And I did not understand or even know a quarter of what I've read now. I did not, never understood it, never knew it, and it is really fantastic to know because it enlarges your outlook on what we believe.
Absolutely. And let me say one more thing. This book has become more relevant in the day in which we live.
Right now.
Because of what is happening in Israel right now.
Yeah.
And what is happening in the nations surrounding Israel today. This book deals with that same kind of persecution. But what is important here is it shows you what happens to leaders or nations who rise up in defiance against the God of Israel.
Right, which is Israel.
And that's what we're seeing today. We see nations rise up against the God of Israel and against Israel itself.
That's right.
And folks, what happens to those people? What happened to Belshazzar, what happened to the Neo-Babylonian Empire is what God does. God does not tolerate this oppression of his people. And God does not tolerate being challenged.
Right.
And his position and his Godhead being challenged.
And I don't think we as believers should be taking this lightly.
No.
This is a very serious war that is happening in Israel right now.
We have a nation rising up against the nation of Israel to destroy it.
Yeah. Nations.
And God will take care of his people. This is what this book, this story that I tell, shows you what happens when you stand up against the God of Israel.
Yeah.
That's what makes it relevant for today. Yeah. So that's just a little aside.
And some added information, and that is this book in its totality. This cover is a limited edition. There are only 25 to 50 copies of this. The new edition will have a different cover. So if you want to get a signed copy of this special edition, please go to getoutbooks.com and you can get it through there. If you want to just get a copy and it doesn't have to be signed or whatever, you can go to amazon.com and what's the other one?
Author House.
Author House.
Yeah, go to authorhouse.com and I'll put all of this on the screen and you can get the book. But if you want a signed copy of the limited edition cover, go to getoutbooks.com and I will sign it, send it to you with a personal message. And we do appreciate your support.
Oh, absolutely,
in this book. It's very difficult for an author to break into this industry.
Yeah.
But with your help and with your reviews, you can help me get this book into the hands of as many people as we possibly can.
Yeah. So we thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. We will have more videos coming up. We're just getting our material ready, but thank you again, and God bless you.
God bless you. Shalom.